well. It's his second Legacy event ever.
I can't argue that.
He's came over here from the Louisiana area. I actually just met him a couple weeks ago in New Orleans. He's also was good friends with Sam Barth, who actually kind of a tragedy in the Magic community, as you may have heard, passed away tragically in a car accident after just last Monday after making top 3 in the Standard Open in New Orleans. So you know, thoughts go out to his family and friends. Tannon, one of his good friends, taught him how to play apparently. So Tannon trying to win one for Sam here. On the other side of the table, Joe Bass playing Blue White Red Miracle Blade. Now Joe Bass also made an appearance in New Orleans a few weeks ago, playing a very similar deck. I think his was Esper Blade. There it is, Miss You Sam from Tannon. The deck Joe was playing, I think he was playing Esper Miracle Blade back when he top 8'd in New Orleans. He actually made the finals, losing to Chi Hoi Yim in New Orleans. So maybe made a few changes to the deck, but otherwise very similar. No lingering souls, I think, is basically he's cut the lingering souls, and therefore it's no longer Esper Blade.
Yep.
The red is really just for red blasts in the board. I'm pretty sure it's got 1 mountain, 3 red elemental blasts in the board. Other than that, I don't see any red cards.
I'll just turn up engineer explosives a little bit more too. That's about it though.
Oh sure.
Yeah. As we see a Scalding Tarn here from Tannon. Playing Rug Delver, he's going to search out one of his non-basics. He's going to start with a Tropical Island. We're probably going to see some sort of Ponder action, maybe a Delver or a Nimble Mongoose, but you guys have seen this song and dance before. This is a pretty commonly played matchup in Legacy, and 2 relatively good Magic players as well playing it, so it should be interesting.
There's Delver of Seekers for Tannon. Both players with a pretty good start. And a Caracas from Joe. Passes back. Alright, Tannon. Delver trigger.
Ding, ding,
Does
ding.
not flip. I'm not sure what he hit there, couldn't quite see it.
Yeah, he pulled that one over quick.
Yeah.
And
he's going to wasteland the Caracas. Joe's going to use that mana really quick to activate the top. Rearrange the top of his library, and here comes Delver. Knocks Joe to 18. Ponder from Tannon. He's got at least 1 more Ponder in his hand.
He could get a lot of cantrips in his hand. He just needs to find a few more lands.
No matter what he left on top here, what he was going to find, he was going to be able to flip that Delver.
Yeah.
So he's got Bolt, Brainstorm, and Stifle.
Not just a game of what card do I A want to draw, B what card do I want to show you.
Exactly.
When I'm flipping Delver into Insectile Aberration. It looks like
he's going to draw Stifle?
He's going to draw Stifle.
Show Brainstorm, I think.
Yeah, definitely a card you don't want your opponent to know that you have.
Yeah. He may have 2 more Ponders in his hand. He's got Daze, Stifle, I believe Fetch Land. Is there a Nimble Mongoose there?
There is a Nimble Mongoose there as well.
Mongoose. Alright, so Joe just plays Academy of Ruins, passes back. Delver trigger flips off of Brainstorm for Tannon. And Insectile Aberration's coming over to play.
And for 3 we go.
Joe Bass knocked down to 15. And a Scalding Tarn from Tannon.
We'll see if he opts to play a Nimble Mongoose or not this turn.
Yeah, he's a little less than halfway to Threshold, but he will likely get there pretty quickly. Nimble Mongoose now on the stack.
See if that's okay, see if there's going to be a Force of Will on this little boy. And it looks like there is. It's going to remove Jace the Mind Sculptor.
It's a pretty profitable Nimble Mongoose, I think.
Can't be too unhappy.
No,
either way, as this goes.
Tannon's going to go ahead and crack his Scalding Tarn. Arrange the stack there for us. Thank you, Tannon. It's nice to visibly represent the stack in these counter wars.
We're going to likely see a Volcanic
Yeah, there it is. I didn't see a Spell Pierce, but you know, there's definitely a lot of blue cards.
Oh, Spell Pierce, kind of a stinker right now.
Sure. I'm just, you know, he's just going to go ahead and brainstorm here.
2-3.
I know he has Daze in hand, so I was
Sure.
thinking maybe Spell Pierce plus Daze is where he was headed with it. But
See what he's going to put back here. There are 2 Ponders hanging out there in his hand. He did draw Lightning Bolt and Tarmogoyf along with Misty Rainforest off of the Brainstorm, so now he's got to decide how he's going to want to sequence at least his next turn, but more than likely he's going to figure out how he wants to sequence his next 2 turns with the Brainstorm here.
yeah, so it looks like Mongoose is not going to stick, and it doesn't. But Joe should be now at 14 after that Force of Will. Tannon, I believe, should be at 18 after that second fetch land. Engineered Explosives from Joe.
Explosives just being on 0 will be able to take care of a Flip Delver. I like this play here. He's going to Daze it. Assuming that Joe doesn't have another land, we're going to see a Brainstorm here so that he can, when he tries to blow Engineered Explosives, stifle it.
Yeah, very, very good play by Tannon.
It's a bit of a gamble, but
Sure, but
things are looking to work out.
Right. So Engineered Explosives on 0 resolves after paying extra 1 mana for a Daze from Tannon. So there's that Volcanic Island for Tannon. And here comes Insectile Aberration, knocking Joe to 11. I'm going to play Misty Rainforest here, possibly Tarmogoyf. Oh, he's going to go ahead and Ponder. Okay.
Gonna get things just further set up.
Sylvan Library, Spell Pierce, and I believe another Stifle.
Just passes the turn back, content with just 2 lands.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to say, why didn't he play Misty Rainforest? Because he had to replay the Volcanic Island.
So top spin. Counterbalance, Force of Will, mystery card. You're going to see a Lightning Bolt. Upstairs to Joe Bass to knock him down to 8.
Yeah, making progress here. Quite a clock. Misty Rainforest comes down for Tannon. Insectile Aberration comes over, should knock Joe to 5. Ponder from Tannon.
Ponder.
I think it's Goyf Library land.
And that looks to be the case.
And that looks like how he's trying to decide how he wants to stack it here. I think he's going to set it up to draw the library. And he does. Passes back here. Still set up to stifle the activation of the Engineered Explosives.
Crack this on upkeep, which I like as well.
Yeah, no play from Joe Bass.
Joe Bass is stuck on lands, even though he does have a Sensei's Divining Top, and he has done some manipulating in this game. Just hasn't really gotten off the ground in this game at all, like these Miracle decks tend to do.
Yeah, it's a little odd referring to it as blue, white, red because it's really just blue, white, and it's able to cast 3 red elemental blasts.
Yeah. And for 3, Stifle
Alright, so
you.
Okay, there's the Stifle on the Engineered Explosives. There's a Force of Will on the Stifle. There's a Spell Pierce for the Force of Will.
We are fighting.
There is a Sensei's Divining Top finding another blue card so that Joe can cast a second Force of Will, and that'll do it. Clears the table of the Insectile Aberration, and Tannon follows up with a Nimble Mongoose. Joe plays top.
Go through all that work to clear everything up, and then Tannon's just like, all right, I'll just play another 3 for 1.
Another 3-powered dude that you are going to have trouble dealing with. So Joe Bass trying to dig in, can't quite do it. deck didn't help him out. Top didn't help him out. Tannon Grace takes game 1 with Rug Delver.
You'll play 3 rounds of Swiss within your pot. Prizes based on.
Tannon was telling me about a play that he made in his. He played in the Invitational.
Okay.
And that was his first Legacy event.
Gotcha.
And he was apparently playing against an opponent who was, I think, playing Show and Tell at 2 life. Puts a Gristlebrand into play.
Okay.
Right. And Tannon's board is 3 Nimble Mongooses, all 1/1s. There's only 3 cards in his graveyard. He has 3 cards in his hand. He draws for the turn, so that's the 4th card. And he tells his opponent he's going to hold priority for all his spells. I can't remember the exact sequence, but basically I think he went Nimble Mongoose, Daze it, Spell Pierce it, I don't know what the 4th card was. Maybe just another one. Basically casting spells and countering them all, not paying, putting all 4 cards in the graveyard, swinging. He had, I think he had one other creature, maybe like a Goyf or something. Sure. Swings through the Gristlebrand, like gain 7, but he was able to connect for the other 9.
More than 7.
Yeah, it was just like a very interesting, clever way to get threshold by casting and countering your own spells.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, and it's just cool to see a player like actually see that angle when your opponent, drops a 7/7 lifelinker.
Yeah, that is threatening to just take over the game immediately.
Yeah. So very impressive.
So for Joe Bass,
Yeah.
not really how I expected that game to go.
No, I think he wants more than 2 lands,
I think I would agree with you.
especially ones that might produce white mana, because that is the other color in his deck that he has a lot of white cards in the deck.
So for his sideboard, does anything here specific in this matchup, something like Supreme Verdict or anything like that, hiding out in his deck?
No Supreme Verdicts. He does have 3 Red Blasts, as we mentioned. 1 Mountain to help ensure that he can actually cast it, especially through Wastelands. And Rug Delver, a deck known to play some Wastelands.
On occasion.
Yeah. So he's got that. He's got access to disenchant. I don't think that's something that he wants. It's just we saw how much Sylvan Library can take over a game, especially against control decks. I don't think he would necessarily board that in, but he could. It's one of those cards that's almost like dead in so many situations, but when you have it for the Sylvan Library, it's clutch. He does have 1 Terminus, an additional Path to Exile, so I expect to see those come in. He's got an additional Spell Pierce. He's also got 1 copy of Rest in Peace, and that's the card we were talking about earlier on today. I think that's worth bringing in here. I mean, a lot of Tannon's threats rely on the graveyard. We see Nimble Mongoose wants cards in the graveyard. Tarmogoyf wants cards in the graveyard. The only threat that doesn't care about the graveyard is Delver of Secrets. So if he can get a Rest in Peace to stick, that could really neuter some of Tannon's bigger threats. What do you think on Tannon's side?
On Tannon's side, there's not a ton going on here. I mean, Vendilion Clique is a nice card against Blood-Red Miracle Blade. Not the best card, obviously, but a rather good card that he could board in. Life Loam is an option, but these Miracle decks typically have more basics to be able to ensure that they don't, get ruined by Wastelands, which ended up happening in that first game, but something that doesn't happen very often. And if you're looking at Joe's deck list, he does have 5 basic lands in his deck, or actually has 7, 5 islands and 2 plains. So
yeah,
getting Wastelanded out of a game is something that does not happen very often in Miracle decks.
Also able to add a mountain if he's going with the Red Blast.
Yeah.
So 1 basic mountain in the board.
Other than that, there's 2 Pyroblast and Elemental Blast, which I don't love in this matchup. Sulfuric Vortex is a unique way to go about trying to beat them, but there aren't a ton of cards that are going to come in here for Tannon Grace. He could also board in his 1 Crozen Grip to take care of counterbalance, assuming that Joe Bass has them, which we didn't see that game. So a little bit of guessing to be done here. I mean, of course, you can take out Sense's Divining Top, but boarding Crozen Grip for Sense's Divining Top, not really the best sideboard plan.
Yeah.
So we'll see exactly what he's planning on doing. Tannon won game 1 fairly easily with a pretty good draw, and Joe stumbling around. So it could be more of the same with his disruption in the early game, along with Dazes and Wastelands, being able to take down Joe before Joe's able to get set. Or will Joe be able to actually play a longer game, draw things out, and then start miracling Terminus and Entreat the Angels, or get an activation out of a Stoneforge Mystic.
And players looking at their opening 7, I think they're both good. Tannon looks to be deciding. Does appear he's got a mix of lands and spells. He may just be a little land heavy. I see at least two duels, and I think he's got 2 fetch lands and possibly a wasteland. So he's going to toss it back.
I was gonna say, Joe looked pretty happy right away.
Probably drew, island, plains, and spells.
Yeah, and things I can cast.
Yeah.
This matchup's always been pretty close. I've always thought that it favored a Miracle player. As long as they can get into turn 4, turn 5 with some lands. They have enough spot removal. They are able to handle Delver pretty well with Swords and Path to Exile. That if they draw the game out, things really do tend to favor them. Whereas Rug Delver normally wins the game in short order, like Tannon did in game 1. That being said, it is a close matchup.
Yeah.
Overall, it's not heavily leaned towards one player or the other, but I do think if you had to pick a favorite here, it is Blue, White, Red Miracle Blade.
Yeah, just having the counterbalance top combo is pretty huge against a deck filled with just 1s and 2s. As it kind of seems obvious, but getting that to stick just makes it so much easier to win. It's like drawing a free counterspell every time your opponent casts a spell. It's just really such a beating, and sometimes you end up with Jace in addition to it, and then sometimes you just set up and entreat the Angels. There's 1 in the deck. It is kind of funny to call this Miracles because there's only 1 entreat, 3 Terminus. There are Miracles in the deck, but it's not built to necessarily win that way. It's probably more like Blue, White, Red Blade Miracle rather than Miracle Blade.
The Miracle Blade.
He's
Yeah, it's not your traditional Miracle deck like you've seen others like on the West Coast, like Joe Lissette or Michael Hetrick play. It's a little bit different, but same concept overall.
Sure.
So we see a Stoneforge Mystic.
Yeah, Tannon with a turn 1 Nimble Mongoose, Joe with a turn 2 Mystic. Gonna find a Batterskull. No surprises there.
Your standard win box is ready to begin. Once again, Michael Wilton to the main event stage.
And now, Joe is going to present a very difficult question to answer very quickly, which is, all right, can you beat a Batterskull? Nope. And if you can't, this game is going to end pretty quickly, as we saw Tannon did draw Sulfuric Vortex for the turn.
Sulfuric Vortex. Interesting card. We have a second Nimble Mongoose from Tannon, and a pass. So, don't know that I saw any sort of stifle action in Tan. Be nice to be able to stifle the Stoneforge activation just to hold off that Batterskull temporarily. Really just wants a bolt for that Stoneforge, but does not have it apparently.
It's weird, because Sulfuric Vortex is an interesting way to go about trying to beat a Batterskull, as Tannon does draw a Stifle for the turn. It's an interesting way to try to go about beating a Batterskull, but you still do have to be able to beat a 4/4 Vigilance, monster coming in, even though it's not gaining any life. Stifle actually a pretty good draw for the turn. It's going to activate Stoneforge Mystic. You let that happen, and you stifle the living weapon trigger on Batterskull.
Yeah, so the Batterskull comes into play, and the Germ does not, forcing Joe to have 5 mana and an additional creature if he wants to re-equip it, or he's going to have to return and replay the Batterskull. Terminus off the top for Joe Bass. Miracle trigger resolves, and Joe says, I'm going to cast it, so Terminus now on the stack. Tannon trying to decide if he wants to let that Terminus resolve. Those are his threats. He has Force and Spell Pierce. Decides he wants to hold those, lets the Terminus resolve, which also cleans up the Stoneforge Mystic. And a Brainstorm from Joe Bass, following up the Terminus. Draws 2 lands and 1 spell. Gonna play a Flooded Strand, crack it immediately. I think we're gonna see another Stoneforge Mystic here.
Oh, that might be the case, yeah.
He definitely has one in hand.
With how quickly he's going through this, excuse me. Seems like that's what we're gonna see. Second equipment to search up or no?
Let's see, just the one main deck Batter Skull, but he does have Umezawa's Jite in the board, which presumably he brought in if he's casting a second Stoneforge Mystic.
Okay.
That one's getting the Force of Will treatment. So, remove Spell Pierce.
Can't let that go. So we see a Thought Scour.
Thought Scour from Tannon.
A Wasteland.
And Tannon unable to find a red source at this point. I mean, he could find one with the Misty Rainforest if he wants, but that's not enough to cast the Vortex, which costs red 1. Not sure that he exactly wants the Vortex at this point, but and there's Counterbalance. So half of the combo there. Tarmogoyf, Blind Flip, shows Umezawa's Jite countering the Tarmogoyf. Yeah, that is that's pretty rough.
There's a bit of a beating there. See what Tannon can draw here. Misty Rainforest. Now he's considering, all right, am I going to sack this and start the Vortex gamble?
Yeah, the problem is he needs a second red source to cast it.
Well, he just drew another Misty Rainforest.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Oh, he's cracking two fetch. I didn't see that. Okay, I'm sorry. I was bringing up Sulfuric Vortex to confirm that it does cost red 1 and not red 2.
So we have Vortex coming at you. Is this good? Top?
Oh, well, top doesn't counter it. Spell Pierce
does.
Does, yeah. And there's a top on top. Tannon empty-handed, and it's not looking good.
He's
Joe
assembling the lot.
Yeah, Soul Bond, Sensei's Divining Top to counterbalance.
I see what you did there.
Yeah,
I like that.
that's what I always say when I have them both.
The Soul Bond.
Soul Bond.
Now I think we're going to see a few more turns played out on this side by Tannon, but the writing is close to the wall here, as we might see this. Okay, Force of Will. All right, just counterspell it.
Yeah, Tarmogoyf meets Counterspell. Surprised Joe didn't just activate top, but
Well, if he activates tops and misses the 2, then the Tarmogoyf actually gets to get into play. Whereas he gets the opportunity to blind reveal. If he misses the blind reveal, then he can just simply counterspell, because it's the only thing that he has.
oh sure, I see. Yeah.
And it turns out he would have hit the 2. Counterspell would have been his last card down. But obviously, hindsight is 50-50, 40-40.
It's an excellent way to look at things.
He said, I'm going to return this Batter Skull. Here's
Yeah.
my 5th land. How about Batter Skull?
As much as the game looks over, Joe still has to close the game, and I don't have any doubts that he can do it at this point. But Tannon's going to make him do it at this particular point. Tannon's going to see if he can find a way out of this.
He's got a very small window to be able to try to find a way out of this. 1-drops are all dead now because of Sensei's Divining Top going back on top of the deck, so he's going to need a timely 2-drop. I'm not entirely sure what he can draw to get himself out of this situation. As he does draw a Ponder. I'd be surprised if that does resolve. Yep.
Top flips, counters the Ponder.
That's it.
Yeah,
I had a feeling that's what was going to happen.
Yeah, not really much you can do if you're Rug Delver when you've got you're Hellbent and your opponent's got the Soul Bonded pair of Sensei's Divining Top and Counterbalance. Oh, and a Batter Skull.
Yeah, and an active Batter Skull.
Yeah, it's really not a lot you can do. So, going to Game 3 here between Tannon Grace and his Rug Delver list versus Joe Bass piloting Blue-White-Red Blade Miracle. Or Miracle Blade, I suppose. here in round 5 of 8 of the StarCityGames.com Legacy Open in Dallas, Fort Worth. I'm Joey Pasco with Cedric Phillips, and we're watching Tannon Grace play his second ever Legacy event. Joe Bass has this is at least his second. I imagine he's played quite a bit more, considering the last time I saw him playing Legacy was in the finals versus Chi Hoi Im in New Orleans just a couple of weeks ago, with a very similar build.
Chi Hoi the master. He can play.
Yeah, I mentioned it yesterday. Adam Prosak played Legacy last week after top 8ing in Standard with his blue-white flash deck.
Okay.
Played Legacy last week, and his tournament report on that particular experience was, "I'm never casting Stoneforge Mystic in this format again." I find that very amusing. I'm not a big fan of Stoneforge Mystic myself. I don't know why. It's obviously good. It's just something
It's very good.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of like the White Tarmogoyf, right? I mean, it finds a 4/4 lifelink vigilance, puts it on the table.
Hey, it's one heck of a card. Well, it's, the people who like it swear by it in these type of decks, and the people who hate it just really never ever play it. It's kind of interesting how the crowds are split on such a card.
Yeah,
I've always found that interesting.
I don't think it's that I dislike it because it's not good. It's just I don't like playing with it. It's just somehow it feels like after the first one, once I get the Batterskull, I don't want any more.
Sure, sure.
And I don't like that. I don't like that feeling where I like feeling like every card I draw is fairly live. Squire just doesn't do it for me.
Draft challenge players. Your pairings have been posted on the hot pink paper.
Hot
On
pink
the side of
paper.
the pairing board at the back of the hall.
We have a draft challenge going
Please
live
follow
right
the
now.
call,
Yeah.
and your head judge will help you to take your seat.
About 21 minutes left in the round for these guys. Plenty of time to get game 3.
Let's see if Tannon's able to get a draw that he'd be happier with this go around. Just a little bit more aggressive. His last draw he had to take a mulligan down to 6, and his draw
Yeah.
wasn't all that explosive. Wasn't a lot of deck manipulation. Not too much was going on that particular game. And Joe was able to execute exactly what he wanted to do, which was just to draw the game out. Activated Stoneforge Mystic.
Yeah.
Basically did what his deck is supposed to do.
Exactly. Turn 2 Stoneforge Mystic right into the Batterskull, which was not even contested. He did actually. I'm sorry. The Batterskull eventually, Batterskull came down and was hit by the living weapon, but that was kind of all the defense that Tannon could muster. Terminus off the top took away Tannon's threats, and Joe was able to go to town with Counterbalance on top.
Yeah.
And eventually, active Batterskull with Germ. All right. Players about to draw their 7.
5, 6, 7. Well, it looks like Joe's hand is almost close to a keep. I see 4 lands of Jace, 2 white cards.
Tannon is about to mulligan again. 1 lander.
Tannon said I wouldn't keep on 10 cards.
Yeah.
I could. 10 cards wouldn't be able to get it done this particular game.
Joe apparently doesn't like his either, so both
Oh, okay.
going to 6. I didn't see Joe's hand.
I saw 4 lands, Jace, and 2 white cards. I'm not sure if the white cards were, Terminus, which would
Right.
be awkward, or if they were Source of Plowshares Pass type of cards, but clearly not happy with it. So each player will go to 6, playing an honest game of mulligans here.
Yeah, both players on 6. Like you said, 7th card's a luxury.
Yeah. That's the attitude. I knew I'd convince you.
Yeah, I like it. I like thinking of it that way. Makes it not feel so bad when you mulligan. Now, Joe's going to be able to recoup from the mulligan. A little easier being on the draw.
Oh, again, and also Rug Delver's deck that does mulligan relatively well.
Sure.
He did not draw, Tannon did not draw very well last game. His mulligan
Right.
was not very good. But in a deck that has Ponder and Brainstorm and these sort of cantrips, this is a deck that does mulligan quite well.
Absolutely. Next week, we'll be in Seattle. You'll be in Seattle.
I will be in Seattle
SCG Live.
because I'll be at home.
SCG Open Series. Yeah, but you'll also be.
I guess I'll take the 7-minute drive and do some commentary too.
That sounds good.
Patrick
Sounds
Sullivan.
good. What a team. You guys are like the all-star pair.
We enjoy what we do. We're just two good friends having fun in the booth. But lucky for me, it is actually 7 minutes from where I live. The Linwood Convention Center in Seattle is across the street from the Chipotle that I eat at.
Right on.
Week, so
Right on.
couldn't get any closer. I get to sleep in my own bed and everything.
It's pretty cool. Like, I mean, I can't imagine. Well, I can imagine, I guess, but it's got to be pretty cool to live up there. You know, able to kind of rub elbows with the guys in Wizards.
Yeah, it's fun.
Relatively often. I'm sure those guys will. A lot of those guys tend to visit the Open Series events when they're in town. So last time I was there, I saw Gavin and Chick Jarrett and Sam Stoddard and Scott Larrabee and all those guys hanging out.
Yeah, Eric Lauer stopped by.
Yeah, Eric Lauer.
Yeah, those guys make it through, and we do a cube league as well, where we do cubes with everybody in the area. Some of the WotC's guys play with us in some of the weeks too. So it is a lot of fun out there. As we do see a ponder here from Tannon. Tannon really needs the second land. All right, he found it. He kept the one lander with the ponder, and his ponder didn't show many lands, but the shuffle plus draw did.
There's that second land, and passes back.
So he can play Magic, but now he needs a guide to play Magic with.
Yes. Joe plays Plains, passes back.
There's
Nimble
a guy.
Mongoose.
There's a guy to play Magic with.
There is.
An untargetable one at that.
Yeah, Nimble Mongoose on the stack.
Good to go.
Yeah, sticks. Joe Bass, no land, passes. Mongoose gonna get in here for one.
When there isn't a land for Joe Bass, that makes those dazes that Tannon has in his hand so much more deadly.
And he's got triple days.
All right, we do see a land now.
3 days grace, isn't that a...
That is a
So-
a group of musicians.
Right, so 3 days grace.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
There it is.
Tannon Grace with 3 days.
I was gonna call them a band, but I felt like that'd be giving them too much credit, so I called them
Yeah.
a group of musicians.
That works. I was just making sure that was an actual thing before I tried to make the pun.
No, it counts.
You guys
It goes.
you guys got to hear it all. You know.
It plays very well. That might be your best pun of the weekend.
That was just opportunity right there. 3 days grace. I can't control Tannon's last name. It was just right there. I may have said 3 days of grace if anybody would have been piloting this deck and had 3 days in their hand. Counterspell for the second Mongoose, and Pyroblast takes out the counterspell.
So now he's gonna have to deal with two Nimble Mongoose, and oddly enough for Tannon, this is the best threat that he could have drawn. Tarmogoyf would have been difficult for him to cast because he would have to tap out to cast it.
Sure.
And Delver of Secrets would have been fine, but it opens himself up to Swords and Path to Exile. So this is like the perfect threat that Tannon could have drawn, and he's drawn 2 copies of it.
So now a counterbalance on the stack. Tannon trying to figure out exactly what he wants to do here because he doesn't have another red blast. That red card in his hand is Sulfuric Vortex. He can force removing days. He can also double days if he wants. So there's 1 days. He's going to go ahead and double days, and that works.
I feel like the reason he did that is he wants to get some cards in his graveyard.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Nimble Mongoose.
Actually, reasonable play just to try to hit threshold. Plays a land, swings in for 2, passes back. So
Let's power these guys up. Oh boy.
Terminus.
Is force good?
Force removing days.
It is not. Spell Pierce.
Spell Pierce from Joe Bass, and that Terminus is gonna happen. So Joe Bass keeping the board clean.
Terminus, a very good top deck there. There was no brainstorm leading up to that. That was just right off of the top.
Yeah, so Tannon replays his second land, passes back to Joe. Joe just plays a Flooded Strand, passes back. Third land from Tannon, and Sulfuric Vortex meets Counterspell from Joe. So both players playing very quickly all of a sudden. There's a Tundra from Joe, and a Numbazawa's Jite. Resolves. Tannon untaps, draws his card, plays a Scalding Tarn and a second Sulfuric Vortex. Does that resolve? It does.
All right,
To
TikTok.
you. Yeah. Sulfuric
sense.
Vortex. Do you want to put that on the screen, or do you want me to just read it, Jesse? Either one. That's
We'll
one.
bring her up. It's been a little while since people have seen them.
There it is. Red 1 enchantment from Scourge. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, Sulfuric Vortex deals 2 damage to that player. That's why Joe Bass is now at 15. If a player would gain life, that player gains no life instead. So Jite counters not as valuable. Tarmogoyf now has landed for Tannon Grace, I believe, or is that on the
It
stack?
is on the stack right
On the
now.
stack here, and we may see a hardcast Force of Will, just considering that fetch land that was just cracked for Joe Bass.
We could see a hardcast Force. Joe also does have a Supreme Verdict and a Swords of Plowshares in his hand, so he definitely has ways to go about dealing with this Tarmogoyf. It's just how do I want to do it?
Looks like maybe Resolve and then cast Swords of Plowshares. Interesting choice, but he does not gain any life from the Sulfuric Vortex, so it's actually kind of like a free Swords to Plowshares. Just costs the white. Doesn't gain his opponent any life.
You see a Brainstorm here for Sensei's Divine Top, Terminus, and an Island. Joe Bass desperately looking for a way to get a clock on the board before Vortex takes him down.
Yeah, right now Tannon Grace is attacking for 2 every turn
Yeah,
with
okay.
with an invisible creature. So Joe says, I want to join in on the fun.
Snapcaster Mage.
Snapcaster comes down, yeah.
Figure out what he's going to target, but more importantly, Snapcaster Mage is resolving right now, and suited up with an Umazawa's Jit, that provides a clock that not even Sulfuric Vortex can raise.
Brainstorm from Tannon. You see David Thomas in the background there, also playing a Miracle deck today. Apparently his round finished before this one.
Well, Dave Thomas is a quick player.
That's true, that's true.
Brainstorm's going to resolve. We're going to see a Pyroblast, it looks like. Now we're going to see Force of Will.
Force of Will removing Supreme Verdict.
It's going to knock Joe down to 10, which can be important for this race because being in that odd number gives him an additional turn with Sulfuric Vortex. But now he's on a
5-turn
clock now with Sulfuric Vortex.
Tannon doing some fetching here.
That Force of Will is still on the stack, so we do have a bit of a stack here. Snapcaster Mage is on the stack. We're going to see Brainstorm again. So all of these things are still on the stack right now for you guys at home.
Doesn't find anything to answer the Force of Will that I can see. It does find a Nimble Mongoose, which definitely has threshold at this point.
So all these things are going to happen. Snapcaster Mage is going to happen. It's going to target Brainstorm, and now Brainstorm is being cast by Joe. Joe's hand pretty dry. He's pretty much all in on this Snapcaster Mage plus Umazawa's Jit being able to get it done, being able to race this off Sulfuric Vortex. As Joe does move down to 8, Tannon's going to move down to 12, and 2 counters on the Jit. Now he's going to move down to 10, the Vortex.
Yeah, doing some work for Joe here as well. Hits both players. Here's a Ponder from Tannon. We know he has a Nimble Mongoose, which can get in front of the Snapcaster Mage. Those counters can't affect the Mongoose. It would just be a chump block, but it might be all he needs to take this game on the back of that Vortex. So there's the Mongoose.
Kick it back.
With
Joe goes to 6.
Now there was a Terminus in the top few cards of Joe's library, and I think he may have drawn it for this turn, but didn't cast it.
Yeah.
Which is reasonable. So it's in his hand now. Snapcaster Mage coming over, I think.
The question for Tannon is does he block?
Right.
If he takes the damage, he's going to end up taking 6. 2 pumps from
Yeah,
Umazawa's Jit.
from the Jito,
Going to
yeah.
put himself down to 4. And then Sulfuric Vortex is going to knock him down to 2. Now what he's considering is, all right, can I race? Can I actually race here with this Nimble Mongoose as we see Ancient Grudge? Ooh.
That's spicy. Ancient Grudge can take care of that Jite, so...
Ancient Grudge makes blocking look a lot more appealing now.
Yeah, Joe is not going to be able to gain life from those counters. Blocking is not going to make it appealing for the counters to to boost the Snapcaster too much. I mean, he's going to make the Snapcaster live through it.
Just to keep one of those cards, okay.
Yeah, so Grudge ends up in Tannon's hand.
The question is, has he decided to block yet or not to block yet? Okay, so it looks like he's decided to take it. And now he gets Terminus. Yep. Oof. And now the race is back to favoring. The race is back to favoring Tannon Grace. Or back to Joe, yeah. I think he ends up just losing to his own Sulfuric Vortex.
I didn't like that decision not to block.
Yeah.
You block there, save your life total a little bit, and you have the Grudge for the Jite there at the end. I'm not sure what he was thinking about. I thought that's the exact line he was going with. Like, I thought he was like, okay, I want to see, okay, I have a Grudge. Now I can block, you know, I lose my guy, but he's gonna